don't think that it's a question of dismissing. I think it's a question of understanding that as Christians, our job is to pray for people. You understand? It's not to criticize others, it's not to judge others. It's to understand that our fight is not against flesh and blood. In other words, it's not against humans. We understand that there's spiritual things happening in the air. You know, we understand that there's evilness, and we understand there's so many other things like in the spiritual realm that we need to tap into so we can further understand why so many things happen. I think that what we should do is just pray for whatever he has said, and pray that he truly repents of the things that he said that were horrible, and God is going to do something great with him. And I have a strong feeling, I have a strong conviction that God is doing something great with him.
Well, Madelyn, I want to invite you to take a look at the statement that President-elect Donald Trump gave during his presidential campaign about Christianity. Let's take a look.
With the evangelicals. I'm a good Christian, and I'm leading with the evangelicals, and I want to tell you something. Christianity, and I put it in the same vein and sometimes in the same sentences, Christianity is being chipped away at in this country. In this country. It's being chipped away at, and I'm not going to let it happen. You know, I was with a whole room full, like 50 pastors, ministers, great people, some of whom I knew pretty well and some I don't. And I said to them, let me ask you a question. How many Christians, evangelicals, but just Christians, do we have in this country? And they were saying maybe 250 million, maybe 260 million. I said, so that's more than we have women. It's more than we have men. It's by far the biggest group. Then why aren't you banding together and getting the kinds of things you want? When...
I think the statement, Madelyn, after watching this video and others that he has made during his presidential campaign had an impact in the Christian community, and this is why he gained the support?
I think that he won the presidential election because it was an intervention from God. I think God has placed him in the position that he is in. Before you invited me for this interview, I was praying to God to tell me what I should say. And as I was praying, the Lord showed me in a vision the name Ezra. Ezra is the name of a book from the Old Testament. And when I started reading this book, it was about a Persian king named Cyrus from the 6th century, who was the first non-Israeli king that the Lord called his anointed one. And God used him to bring the Jews that were captives back into Israel, and also to rebuild the temple. The meaning Ezra symbolically means restoration and hope. And I think that's what God is doing with Donald Trump and with America. The connection with him and King Cyrus, this Persian king, is that God is using someone that typically we don't see as holy in our eyes, but God sees the condition of the heart. And I think God wants to use someone who is new. I think God is showing us, also can show us a lesson through letting us know that, you know, he is in control of all things, and that he can use whoever he wants and transform that person, or use that person as an instrument for his glory. And I think that's what he's doing, because the same way like King Cyrus, Donald Trump is bringing back hope and restoration. How so? He wants to bring back God to this nation, when laws have been pushing God out of this nation. And this nation has been blessed because this nation was founded under the principles of God. And that's why this nation has been so blessed, influential, and prosperous, because it was honoring and worshiping God. But now, you know, there's some lawmakers, politicians that are pushing God out of this country, and we need someone to bring back God into this country. And it's because of the prayers of the saints. The saints are the believers, the people that are believing, that are crying out to the Lord like watchmen in the nighttime and saying, God, you know, bring back hope and restoration to this nation that, you know, has, you know, forgotten about your principles, has forgotten about your laws. So I think God can use whoever he wants. I think we shouldn't focus too much on who he's using, you know, or maybe because perhaps someone wanted, perhaps we see someone like Donald Trump and we typically think it should be a pastor. Maybe why didn't God choose a pastor to be president of a nation? God can choose anyone. Who's to tell God who he can choose or who looks good, in the eyes of man, when we know that man sees the physical appearance, but God sees the heart.
And like Donald Trump promised a lot of things like most politicians do during the presidential campaigns. Now that he's the president-elect, he has softened up his tone on certain issues that he promised he would deliver. Some he has completely dismissed from his agenda, and some he's still keeping. Could it be the fact that he has retweaked or reworked what he promised during his presidential campaign that he would do, that also applies to the promises that he made to the Christian community?